Hollywood spent years protecting Ellen DeGeneres' image. She was known as the queen of daytime television, always smiling, always promoting kindness. But once that carefully crafted image began to crack, story after story started coming out. Now, Rob Schneider is sharing exactly what he thinks, and Megyn Kelly isn't holding back either. Together, they're bringing old accusations back into the spotlight, and Rob even had a personal message for Ellen that caught a lot of people off guard. Here's everything that happened. During an appearance on Megyn Kelly's show, Rob Schneider didn't try to soften his opinion. He openly suggested that Ellen's public persona wasn't genuine, while Megyn agreed, arguing that the image she spent years building completely unraveled once people started sharing their experiences. One of the biggest moments they discussed was Ellen's now infamous interview with Dakota Johnson. During the conversation, Ellen joked that Dakota hadn't invited her to a birthday party. But Dakota immediately corrected her, saying she had, in fact, invited Ellen. What was meant to be a lighthearted exchange quickly turned awkward, and the clip spread across social media. Suddenly, viewers began looking at Ellen in a very different way. According to Megyn Kelly, that interview became a turning point. As more people revisited Ellen's public interactions, stories about her behavior started gaining attention. Megyn even claimed she knew someone whose sister had worked on Ellen's show and allegedly said employees weren't even allowed to make eye contact with her in the hallways. Whether people had heard similar stories before or not, the conversation around Ellen's reputation was rapidly changing. Then social media poured fuel on the fire. After one user asked people to share the wildest stories they had heard about Ellen being rude, thousands of responses flooded in, creating one of the biggest viral discussions surrounding a celebrity's public image. One story came from someone who claimed to have worked at a restaurant where Ellen and Portia regularly had brunch. According to the post, Ellen allegedly complained to the restaurant owner because the employee had chipped nail polish. The employee said it wasn't on the food or anywhere near Ellen's plate. It was simply on their hand after working a late shift the night before. They claimed the complaint nearly cost them their job. Whether every story was true or not, the sheer number of similar accounts caught people's attention. More articles appeared, more former employees spoke publicly, and the reputation Ellen had spent years building continued to erode. Eventually, the controversy became so significant that her daytime talk show came to an end. But that wasn't the end of the story. Last year, Ellen attempted a comeback with a Netflix comedy special. Instead of winning audiences back, it sparked another wave of criticism. Critics argued that rather than taking full responsibility for the controversy surrounding her show, Ellen portrayed herself as the victim, reigniting the debate over her legacy. Is Ellen DeGeneres rewriting history? That's the question some former staff members are asking after the release of her Netflix stand-up special. For your approval. Throughout the special, Ellen addresses the controversy surrounding her career with humor, joking that she was pushed out of show business because people thought she was mean. She also talks about the intense criticism she faced, saying she spent time in therapy trying to cope with the backlash and pointing to headlines from major publications as evidence that it felt like everyone had turned against her. Not everyone accepted that approach. One former producer who worked on the Ellen DeGeneres show argued that the special missed the point entirely. Instead of taking meaningful responsibility, they felt Ellen was minimizing the allegations and presenting an overly polished version of what had happened behind the scenes. Ellen described the atmosphere on her show as one of laughter and togetherness, saying it felt like a family where everyone enjoyed working together. But some former employees strongly disagreed, claiming the workplace was defined more by fear than friendship. To them, her version of events didn't reflect the experience they remembered. The criticism didn't stop there. Some commentators pointed out that Ellen had publicly apologized when the workplace allegations first surfaced, expressing regret for anyone she may have hurt. But only a few years later, they felt she was making light of the same controversy in her comedy special. For those critics, it came across as though she was dismissing the concerns that had led to the backlash in the first place. Megyn Kelly was especially critical of Ellen's message. She argued that Ellen portrayed herself as the victim, despite reports that she had received another major Netflix deal. Kelly questioned how someone with an estimated fortune worth hundreds of millions of dollars could claim she had been driven out of Hollywood. She also took issue with Ellen's comments about the challenges successful women face. arguing that many viewers would struggle to relate to someone living such an extraordinarily privileged lifestyle. Rob Schneider offered a more measured response. While he agreed that Ellen didn't appear to be showing much humility, he also said he believes everyone deserves the opportunity to seek reconciliation. Drawing from his own experiences, he explained that holding on to resentment only keeps people trapped in the same patterns, and he encouraged Ellen to genuinely confront those feelings if she hoped to move forward. Even so, both Rob and Megyn agreed on one point. If Ellen wanted people to forgive her, they believed it would require a sincere apology rather than framing herself as someone who had been unfairly treated. In their view, appearing on a high-profile Netflix special while claiming to have been pushed out of Hollywood sent a mixed message. Reports estimate Ellen's wealth at around $500 million, and she's become well known for buying, renovating, and selling luxury homes. But according to Megyn, the real issue was never her success or financial status. The criticism centered on accountability. When the workplace controversy first erupted, Ellen said she hadn't been aware of everything happening behind the scenes on her show. Her critics, however, argued that explanation was difficult to accept, given that similar complaints had surfaced from employees and guests over many years. Those concerns were echoed by some former guests. One participant recalled that while Ellen appeared warm and engaging whenever the cameras were rolling, she became noticeably distant as soon as filming stopped. According to that account, she rarely acknowledged the audience off camera and simply waited quietly until it was time to continue recording. Another guest who appeared in one of the show's game segments claimed that after filming ended, they were left waiting for nearly an hour in wet clothes despite being told dry clothing would be provided. They described feeling forgotten by the production team, adding another story to the growing list of complaints about how people were treated behind the scenes. Then attention shifted to one of the show's most uncomfortable celebrity interviews. In 2008, Mariah Carey appeared on Ellen while she was pregnant, but had not yet announced it publicly. During the interview, Ellen repeatedly brought up the pregnancy rumors and even offered Mariah a glass of champagne, suggesting that refusing it would only fuel speculation. Mariah appeared visibly uncomfortable and repeatedly tried to move the conversation elsewhere. Years later, Mariah explained why that moment had been so painful. Because she had previously experienced miscarriages, she wasn't ready to share the news publicly. Tragically, she suffered another miscarriage not long after the interview. While there's no evidence Ellen knew what would happen, many viewers later. Rob Schneider also weighed in on the controversy, saying he believed Ellen had positioned herself as the victim instead of showing genuine humility. While he acknowledged that everyone deserves the chance to make amends, he argued that true reconciliation begins with honest self-reflection and a sincere willingness to accept responsibility. In his view, feeling sorry for herself wasn't the path forward, especially given her level of success and wealth. The discussion then shifted to what some critics see as a recurring pattern throughout Ellen's career. According to them, everything appears fine until public criticism begins, at which point the focus turns to how unfairly she's been treated. They pointed to an earlier chapter in her life as another example. After publicly coming out, Ellen spoke openly about the difficult years that followed. She described feeling depressed, financially strained, and professionally isolated, believing that Hollywood had turned its back on her. Around that same period, her relationship with actress and Hetchy came to an end. Initially, both women described the breakup as amicable, but years later, and shared a very different perspective. In later interviews, and claimed that their relationship had fundamentally different priorities. She said she was searching for love, while she believed Ellen was focused on building wealth and expanding her career. According to Anne, those differences ultimately drove them apart, and she suggested that their values were no longer compatible, and went even further, alleging that Ellen had been controlling during their relationship and later used her influence in Hollywood to make it harder for her to find acting work after they separated. She described herself as one of the first people to experience what would later become known as being canceled, saying it took years before she finally felt comfortable telling her side of the story. As Anne reflected on those experiences, she explained that she had stayed quiet for a long time before deciding the time had finally come to speak openly. She maintained that the truth had always been there for anyone willing to look closely, and she wanted to share her perspective after keeping it to herself for so many years. Meanwhile, The controversy surrounding the Ellen DeGeneres show continued to grow. Beyond the allegations involving Ellen herself, dozens of former employees came forward with claims against several of the show's top executive producers. The accusations included allegations of misconduct, inappropriate behavior, and harassment. While all three executives denied the claims, the volume of complaints prompted Warner Media to launch an internal investigation. The investigation ultimately led to major changes behind the scenes. Executive producers Ed Glavin and Kevin Lehman were dismissed, while Jonathan Norman also left the show. When season 18 premiered in 2020, Ellen addressed the controversy on air. She apologized to those who had been affected and said she accepted responsibility for what happened on her show, while also joking that being known as the kind lady had become a difficult position to be in. For many former employees and viewers, however, that apology didn't fully resolve the concerns. At the same time, it's important to note that not every allegation or claim discussed over the years has been independently verified. Some remain disputed, and many accounts are based on personal experiences and opinions rather than confirmed facts. The conversation then turned to another moment from Ellen's show that has since drawn renewed attention. In 2020, she surprised a group of children battling cancer alongside a celebrity who would later become the subject of serious criminal allegations. At the time, none of those accusations were public, but in hindsight, some viewers have looked back on the segment differently. Ellen's affectionate birthday message to him, which included a playful nickname, has also resurfaced online and become part of that broader discussion. The Ellen DeGeneres show officially came to an end in May 2022 after an impressive 19-season run. But only a few months later, Ellen found herself back in the headlines following a tragic event involving her former partner, Enhechi. In August 2022, and was seriously injured in a devastating car crash in Los Angeles and passed away several days later. Authorities ruled the crash an accident, but because Anne had previously spoken publicly about her relationship with Ellen and had reportedly been working on new projects before her death, the incident quickly became the subject of widespread speculation across social media. Following Enhechi's death, countless theories began circulating online. Some people questioned whether the crash was truly accidental, pointing to details they believed didn't quite add up. One of the most widely discussed moments came from the morning of the accident, when Anne reportedly visited a wig shop in Venice, California. According to the shop owner, Anne appeared completely normal during their interaction. He said she purchased a red wig, posed for a selfie with him, and didn't seem impaired in any way. He later recalled that she wasn't slurring her speech or acting strangely, describing the encounter as perfectly ordinary. Not long afterward, however, Anne was seen driving her blue Mini Cooper and was reportedly involved in two separate hit-and-run incidents before the final crash. Photos taken at one of those scenes appeared to show the red wig on the passenger seat, along with what some people believed was a vodka bottle in the car's cup holder. To many online, that image immediately fueled speculation that alcohol had played a role. But according to the official toxicology report, no alcohol was found in Anne's system at the time of the crash. Investigators also reported no active drugs, only traces of cocaine and cannabinoids that were consistent with prior use rather than impairment during the incident. That finding raised even more questions for those who continued to speculate about what had happened that day. Security camera footage captured Anne's vehicle speeding through residential streets before the crash. According to reports, she drove through a stop sign without slowing down, narrowly avoided other vehicles, and ultimately slammed into a home at high speed. The impact caused both the house and the car to catch fire, leaving Anne trapped inside for approximately 45 minutes before emergency crews were able to reach her. One detail that generated significant online discussion involved aerial news footage from the rescue scene. The video appeared to show Anne on a stretcher covered by what many viewers described as a body bag. Moments later, she suddenly sat upright before first responders guided her back down and loaded her into the ambulance. The footage quickly spread across social media, leading to even more speculation despite the official investigation concluding the crash was accidental. Just a few months later, another tragedy connected to Ellen's circle shocked the entertainment world. Stephen "Twitch" Boss, the beloved dancer, DJ, and executive producer of the Ellen DeGeneres show, passed away at the age of 40. Authorities determined that his death was self-inflicted and stated there was no evidence of foul play. Still, that conclusion did little to stop speculation online. Many people questioned the circumstances, while others pointed to the immense public pressure Twitch had reportedly faced after standing by Ellen during the toxic workplace controversy. A choreographer who knew him claimed that after the allegations surrounding the show became public, Twitch's support for Ellen drew criticism from many people. According to that account, the backlash took a noticeable toll on his mental health, and those close to him had observed changes in his behavior during that period. Others focused on unrelated details, including the fact that Twitch did not have a will, meaning his estate was divided according to legal procedures. To some online, that seemed unusual and became another reason for speculation, despite investigators finding no evidence to support claims of foul play. Ellen released a heartfelt statement following his passing, saying she was heartbroken and describing Twitch as pure love and light. She called him family and said she would miss him deeply. Even so, online speculation continued. It's important to note that there is no credible evidence contradicting the official findings, and investigators have consistently maintained that there was no foul play. However, a portion of the internet has continued to reject those conclusions, keeping the discussion alive years later. As for Ellen herself, she has largely stepped away from Hollywood since the controversies surrounding her show. In late 2024, she and Portia de Rossi relocated to the United Kingdom, choosing a quieter life away from the spotlight. Although reports have linked the couple to luxury property purchases in California, those homes have been described as temporary stays while they continue living primarily overseas. According to reports, Ellen may soon return to one of the roles that made her beloved by audiences around the world. She is expected to reprise her role as the voice of Dory in a new Finding Nemo short film. If those reports prove accurate, Dory could mark Ellen's return to Hollywood. The question now is whether audiences are ready to welcome her back, or whether the controversy that brought her daytime television career to an end will continue to shape public opinion.